enable my microphone. Again, hello everyone. Thank you for joining our web webinar. And today our topic is Log a Piece Out. This is our 14th webinar. Okay, fine, guys. Where are you from? I mean, Antonio, so you are a new attendee for our webinars. Okay, you are from Spain. Perfect. And what's your level actually? What's your rating on chess.com, if you have? Or maybe you have a feeder rating. Oh, it's quite good. Okay, if you want, I can enable your microphone so that you will be allowed to say something. Now it should work. There is a cogwheel, and if you click on it, you can. Okay, I can hear an echo.
Hello.
Hello. Good, but unfortunately, if you can fix this echo, it will be very nice. Can you try to do it? Maybe you need some headphones, maybe something like that.
I don't have here.
Okay. Yeah, that's bad. Okay. Actually, I'm sorry, but now I have to disable your microphone because then with such a bad echo, it's really not so good to conduct a webinar. Oh, can you say something now? Okay, looks like it didn't get better. Okay, fine. Okay, Anthony, would you like to get, do you have anything to say? Because I can enable microphone to you as well. Okay, Anthony, okay, no need. Okay, your rating now is 800 on chess.com. Actually, Anthony, especially for you, not actually only for you, but especially for players with your level, I'm going to conduct a marathon where I will conduct a few 2 lessons per week. Where I'm going to explain the main mistakes, teach you the openings, also provide with homework, and it will last for 1 month. I am going to announce it soon, but this is what just came to my mind. I'm going to apply a program that can help you to get your rating 200 points higher than it is now, and everything should be done in just 1 month. Yeah, we'll decide on your chess.com rating, and I'm going to organize it through our webinar platform. With, of course, with the help of chess.com, with maybe we will use Lichess as well, maybe some other, and I am also thinking about implementing maybe 1 or 2 private lessons just to fix the mistakes that the exact player makes, because some mistakes are typical, but of course some not, and to fix them we shouldn't talk about these mistakes during the webinar with many other students, but we should discuss them on a private lesson. Okay, Ahiland, do you want me to give you microphone? I actually enable it so you can try to say something. Okay, and we have Michael. Michael, your microphone is enabled now. You can say something too. Okay, I'll disable it. Michael, you can still say something and try if there is an echo. Okay, guys, so looks like nobody wants to speak. Oh, okay. One more participant, Dadal. Okay, your microphone is enabled now. Dadal, can you say something? I don't have a microphone. Okay, fine. I'm on a desktop. Okay, I see. I see. Okay, guys. Anyway, if you need a microphone, just let me know. Okay, so today our topic is lock a piece out. What does it mean? It's a kind of situation when we trap the enemy piece, but we can't capture it. We can't threaten it to take. However, it means that the enemy piece doesn't participate the game, and in such a case, for example, it makes sense to switch to the other side and play there while one of the enemy pieces can't join that side. And in such a case, looks like you have extra piece. What are we going to do first? We are going to analyze the game between two strong players, and one of them, the guy who was playing with black pieces in this game, was Jose Raul Capablanca. He was playing again William Winter. I hope you can see my desktop and this board. Okay, we don't really need to analyze the opening because at that time there was no theory. No, the theory of this position wasn't well known. Nowadays, people play much better than they know the lines up to 20, 30 moves. So knight c6, knight c3. Knight f6, bishop b5, bishop b4, a symmetrical position, castle, castle. And finally, white decided to take on c6, which is not actually the best move. D takes on c6. And the first question for you, knight e5. This move wasn't played in the game, but if white plays such a move, how would you play for black now? Anthony, what means okay? Looks like you need the notation. Okay, here we are. So you mean rook e8? Yeah, rook e8. Okay, what else? Can take the pawn on e4, Michael, but how? To take on c3. Okay, if we take on c3, d takes on c3, then we take on e4, then the position is equal. However, I believe that rook e8, that many of you suggested, is better, because then d4, bishop takes on c3, pawn takes, pawn takes, knight e4. This is slightly better than the position that was previously, because here the pawn is on d4, his pawn structure is slightly ruined, and our is better because all pawns are connected. We also played with our rook, so the position is still equal, but maybe slightly better than the one where we take on c3 immediately and then take on e4. So at least this is how black could equalize. However, white thought that knight e5 didn't really provide white with any advantage. That's why d3 was played here. The pawn on e5 is now hanging. That's why bishop d6. Bishop g5. A typical move. I think almost everyone wants to pin the knight. However, looks like white doesn't really have anything to pile up the pressure on this knight, and there is no really way to exploit this pin. Okay, h6. How would you play in this position for white? Take or move the bishop out? And if move the bishop out, what square to? h4, bishop h4. What else? Bishop e3. Oh, yeah. In this position, bishop e3 is a better move. Bishop h4 happened in the game. And Then c5 was played. Maybe c5 is not the best option, but you see, you can't really do anything with this pin. However, the bishop on h4 can be chased with the g pawn, and then the bishop has to stay on g3. So I think on e3 it can do better, but at the same time we should analyze knight g4 option. However, I don't think knight g4 does much for black, then just bishop d2. But let's stick back to the game where bishop h4 was played, and black replied with c5. And can you please tell me what's the idea behind c5 move? Yes, it's to prevent d4. Because d4 can cause some problems. For example, in this position, if white plays it, then maybe queen takes on d4 with the idea to play e5 later. And after c5, looks like white loses this plan. But he plays knight d5, and now he increased the pressure. How to play now for black? Now, his idea is to take on f6 and ruin our pawn structure. Oh, of course, g5. G5, otherwise he just takes and ruins our pawn structure. Bishop e7 doesn't look good. I think knight e7 will be played in such a case. Maybe just knight e3 is enough. So g5, bishop. Okay. Here he has several options. And let's say this move. If so, then I think knight d5, e takes d5, bishop g4, h3, bishop h5, with the idea to push the pawn to f5 and start the attack on the king side, while the center is stable. So imagine f5, queen f6, and rook e8. Rook a e8, and then start pushing the pawns on that side, on the king side. What if knight g5 in this position? What do you think? What can black do now? Okay. Okay, here we have three different suggestions. Bishop g4, h takes g5, and knight takes on d5. Let's analyze them. So, for example, bishop g4, then knight f3 back. And we are one pawn down, and also we experience some problems. We have to play this move, I think. So bishop g4 definitely doesn't work. H takes g5. Let's analyze. Bishop takes. Now there is a problem with this knight, and the only way is to play this move, but then he takes, queen takes, and then maybe f4 to open the file and to attack the knight. Looks like here black is in a real trouble. Yes, and okay, so here rook so sorry, not this move, but rook f4, for example, can be played. But if so, then queen e5. So it looks fine. That's why in this position, I think it's better to play queen e1. Queen e1 and queen h4. If queen e6 in this position, I think f takes on e5 or f5, f5. Then let's say queen moves. Yeah, then no, I want to take, but okay, let's do rook f3 first. I think there is a chance to be checkmated in this position. So like this, then rook h3, king escapes, but rook h6, and that's a kind of a problem. So h takes on g5 is too risky. Maybe black doesn't lose immediately, but it's too risky. Knight d5 is the best option. This is what the Dal suggested. And then what? If he takes on d5, we take the knight, and it's fine. Or what else? If he retreats, then a knight goes to e7, or maybe bishop goes to e7, and it's fine. That's why after g5, everything that he has is that just this move, knight f6. Sorry, knight f6, queen f6, bishop g3, bishop g4, and h3 was played. How to play for black? What do you think? This is a critical moment of the game where black has to take an important solution that can affect the future position. So Ahelan suggests bishop takes on f3. What? Any other ideas? Okay, so again, bishop takes f3. Yeah, okay, so bishop takes f3. Why? Because, no, after queen f3 we take, because in this position you can realize that this bishop is totally trapped. It can't join the game. So, for example, h4 doesn't help because we can ignore, and if he takes, we take with this pawn, and he can't escape with his bishop. If he plays f4, at least he loses a piece, a pawn. Moreover, after f4, he has to play f3 and somehow escape, but this pawn loss can decide the game. Okay, then f6 was played in the game, king g2. What do you think black should do in this position in general? Let's try to think and come up with a plan. Put pawns on the light squares. Develop the rooks. F5 to open a file. Okay, it's not clear for me. Dal, you mean f5 and then take on e4, but then we allow his bishop to escape. He takes with the f pawn, with the f3 pawn, and then plays f3, and bishop escapes and joins the game. Looks like f5 is in white favor. Or maybe you want to play f5, f4? That makes sense, I think. However, it's not the best option. Okay, you suggest f5, f5, and if he takes, we take with the rook. Maybe, but in such a case, it makes our e5 pawn a weakness, a potential weakness, and also gives the e4 square for his rook, for example. Okay, anyway, f5 doesn't really lose, but no, it's a concrete idea. However, I want you to find the general plan. Okay, here, while this bishop is locked on the king side, and there is no way for this bishop to escape, we should switch to the queen side and play here, open the position here, and then successfully use the advantage of extra piece. A5. Our task is to open the files, trade the rook, and maybe get with our king to somewhere to b4, capture the enemy pawns. Oh, b5 as well, maybe. Okay, a4, king f7, rook h1, king e6. h4, he somehow tries to find a counterplay, but there is no. Rook fb8 with the idea to play b5. He takes, we take with the h pawn, and actually if he moves his rook to h7 or h6, it doesn't really make much sense because our pawns are successfully protected with the king on e6. The pawn on c7 is protected with the bishop. And for example, rook h7 only leads to a trade. We can go back, offer trade, and if rook g7, we can get our other rook, and at least we can trade a rook pair. Then our task is still to open the position on that side. However, in the game it was b3, c6, rook a2, b5 now, as Michael suggested, rook h2 a1 with the idea to attack the pawn on a5. That can be potential weakness. Okay, for now, looks like white protected everything. How to continue for black? What do you think? B takes a4. Okay, b takes a4, rook takes a4, and what then? Okay, c5. Okay, guys, you mean c4? f5. This is what Michael suggested. Michael, what's the idea of f5? What if white just ignores it and do something else? You will play f4, but what then? Okay, so I don't think f5 makes sense, but c4, right. And not only to open the bishop, but to open the files. So here we should analyze b takes on c4 and d takes on c4, because a takes on b5 was played in the game. For example, b takes on c4, b takes on c4, d takes on c4, and rook b4, with the idea to gain a pawn back. But this is how at least we open two files, the b and d file. And we can also take on c4 and put some pressure on c2 as well. D takes c4 doesn't really change anything. Here, I think he has to take, otherwise we just win a pawn here. If he plays rook b2, I think we can activate our bishop. A takes on b5 was played in the game. C takes b3. Now rook a5 doesn't work, at least because of b2 move. Or maybe rook takes rook, then rook from a1 takes on a5, and then b2, and this is how black promotes. That's why c takes on b3, and black has to take with the rook. But at the same time, the pawn on b3 is a weakness now. And rook a4 was played in the game, but how would you play against rook b1? What to do now? Yes, a4, exactly. Here a4, and you win a pawn. Of course, you may do it immediately. You can't take immediately because the a is pinned. But you can. No, actually, I think rook b3 works. For example, if he does something, then you can capture on b3. If he takes, you take, and if he takes your rook, then we promote because rook b8 doesn't work. However, in this position, maybe this move can be played. But if so, rook h8 check. Okay, fine. So yeah, a4. If he decides to double on the a file, then I think a3. This is actually the original idea, because here the pawn is protected by the bishop. We can get our rook to b8. Oh, this is how we use the advantage of extra piece. He can't capture the pawn, and we can release our rook and double on the b file to be able to capture on b3. Okay, rook a4 was played in the game, rook b3, and in this position, d4 was played with the idea to open a dark squared bishop. However, if rook a5, rook takes the rook, then rook d3 with a clear plan to advance the pawn. Looks like there is nothing white can do to save this position. Okay, so rook a4, rook b3, and he plays d4. How would you play in this position? Because I don't think it's a good idea to trade the bishops. Mm-hmm. Ignore it, but at the same time, your a5 pawn is hanging. Bishop b4. Oh, actually, bishop b4 makes sense. But what I don't like, maybe after bishop b4, he can somehow activate this rook. Okay, rook b5 with the idea to protect the pawn. And if he takes, we take with the pawn, and what if he does this? Then I think just relocate our bishop and successfully play with 2 extra pawns on that side. So actually we have only 1 extra pawn, but looks like these 2 counts like 1. However, in the game after rook b5, they played rook c4, rook b4 to offer a trade. If rook c1, then we can just take and then play a4, because he can't do anything. If he plays rook c6, then a3, and he has no time to stop the pawn. Of course, he can block it with rook a1 move, but if so, then we can attack his rook using these dark diagonals. And if here on a2, then we just take on d4, or maybe play rook b1 and rook b2, then a2. So rook c6, rook d4, and then we have a clear plan. Let's look at what happens then. King d7, rook b6, a2, rook b2, bishop c5, and white resigned. Can you explain why? Yeah, of course, we here threaten with a discovered attack. But no, let's say he plays king e2. What to do? Rook a4, then bishop. No, it doesn't work. Bishop d4, and then he does this, I think. And now we lose the game. Not bishop a3. Okay. Come on, guys. There should be a winning move. Okay, actually, it's just rook a4 with bishop d4 idea, because this is how we protected the pawn on a2. Then we attack the rook that stops and prevents our pawn from promotion. So it's easy, actually. And if he takes immediately, then we do a check and just gain a rook for free. What you may learn from this game? Let's go back. So here, bishop g5 is a typical move, but with our pawn on e5, h6 and g5 can be a real threat, because this is how we lock the enemy piece. Also, in this position, for example, if he moves the knight, he can play f3 and then escape with his bishop. That's why I want you to remember about these typical methods to make his bishop stuck there. We just take on f3, and now with his pawn coming to f3, he can't escape with his bishop without any pawn sacrifices. And one more thing. When you see that his piece is stuck on one side and you don't really see that you can do something on that side, stick to the other side. I mean, switch to the other side, try to find the plan that can help you to open the position, trade pieces, and successfully use the advantage of extra piece. However, in such a case, I want you to be sure and look after if there is a way for him to get his piece back to the game. Okay, fine. Let's close this one, because we also have one more example. Actually, we have two more examples. And this is the fragment from the game between Lev Polugaevsky and Efim Geller. So it's black to move in this position. And which move comes to your mind here? If we are looking, if we are discussing such a strategical motive as lock an enemy piece out, what do you think? What black move? Okay, it's b3 move, exactly. It's b3. This is how black played in the game. And what do you think white should do here? Oh, sorry. Okay, Anthony, you mean bishop d1. Okay. Oh, of course, it doesn't make sense to take because 2 pawns for a piece is not enough, especially in this position. Also, I want you to notice that the knight in f6 is not hanging. Okay, so in this position, bishop f5 was a better move, with the idea to escape to h3, for example. However, I think black is fine. For example, instead of knight h5, at least bishop c8 might work. But knight h5 looks good because knight f4 is a good idea. However, in such a case, f4 can cause some real problems for black. So that's why maybe bishop c8 is a better option. The bishop on f6 is not hanging. And by the way, with such a pawn structure, you may notice that our bishop on b7 is not a good piece. That's why bishop c8 and the position is approximately equal. But let's go back, because in the game it was played bishop b1. However, I believe even bishop d1 is a better option. Okay, bishop b1, and now after a4, both these pieces, the bishop and the rook, are stuck there. f4, knight d7, and the only square that the bishop has is f5, and it should go there, of course. Okay, queen h5 was played in the game. However, what if f5 here? How black should play now? Okay, I can say that a pawn f5 move is kind of a strategical and even a tactical mistake. How can we play in this position? What do you think? Knight f6 back, but looks like this move doesn't contain any threat. A possible move, but what if he moves his queen? Just what should we do with our knight? Retreat back? No, let's say knight f6, queen f3. f6 with the pawn. Well, that makes sense, of course, but I think in such a case he pushes the pawn forward. e6. This is how he gained more space. And actually, I don't think that by playing f6 we improve our position. Queen g5. Queen g5, knight f3 can be played with a temper. Knight f4, we sacrifice. No, it doesn't make sense to sacrifice. We open the center, but we shouldn't, because then his bishop escapes and he can use his rook. Okay. In this position here, we may sacrifice one of our knights. Oh, another option. G6 is not so good. G6 can be fed with f6, but it's still okay. Oh yeah, actually, yeah, G6. If f6, we may take on f6. Actually, can we? No, I don't think so. If we take here on f6, then queen f3, and our knight is hanging. If knight moves, we blunder on f7. Okay, so no, queen b6 is a good move, but king h1. Knight d or knight c takes on a5 doesn't really matter which. Well, let's say this knight. Then we take with the rook, queen moves, and then we do f6. We are down a piece, right? But the idea is that he is down a rook, actually, because he can't join the rook now to the defense. And to be able to join the rook, he has to play with this bishop. But there are no safe squares, so looks like the best thing he can do now or in future is to move this bishop, sacrifice it for one pawn, and release the rook. Well, that's a kind of strategical sacrifice. Instead of queen f3, queen h5 can be played. If so, then queen b6, king h1, and f6 with the pawn with their solid position. Okay, fine. So f5 wasn't played. Instead, queen h5, what looks like a strong move, but doesn't really provide white with any advantage after g6. Queen g4 and bishop t8 with the idea to apply a discovered attack. Queen f3, because if f5, then I think we can do The same idea with knight sacrifice. Queen f3. Queen a5. This move is a tricky move. This is how black protects the d5 pawn, but at the same time, we allow white to take on c4. D takes on c4, queen c6. This is what happened in the game. However, then rook a7 with the idea to trap this queen, or at least to play rook c7 and bishop b7. For example, if no, actually, what can we do in this position? Actually, if bishop e4, he wants to release the rook, then rook c7, queen d5, queen a7, and then knight f8 with the idea to trap the queen. That was the idea. That was what Efim Geller calculated. That's why it's much better to escape with the queen right now. And what do you think? How to continue for black? By the way, what white gonna do on the next move? So try to think about it, and then you'll come up with a plan, I think. We are down a pawn, but it should be okay if you find the correct move in this position. What can you suggest? Bishop b7, and Michael, what do you expect white to play after bishop b7? Mm-hmm. So it's a bad idea because bishop e4, he trades his bad bishop and he escapes with his rook from a1. f6, how does f6 prevents bishop coming to e4? f5. f5 makes sense because in such a case we stop bishop coming to e4 and he has no safe squares, and if he captures, we take with our knight, I think, and this is how we can still stop the e4 move, bishop e4 move. Okay, after f5 in the game it was g4. Well, of course he wants to do something with his bishop and rook left on that side, but knight b6. Because if he takes, we can still capture with the pawn and also do rook g7. So the king is okay in this position. h3, because the pawn was hanging. Queen d5, offer a trade, queen g3. Because if queen takes queen and knight takes on d5, then white is going to play without these pieces, maybe without all these three, or at least without these two. Queen g3, rook g7, king h2 to open the g file, maybe for a future attack, but bishop b7. Actually, king h2 was obligatory, otherwise we can enter with queen h1. Rook g1, he wants to take on f5 because in such a case the rook on g7 will be hanging. And just move our rook up to protect the other rook. Queen f2. The pawn on f5 is hanging now, that's why just rook f7 move. Queen e3, queen e6. Maybe our knight can now come to d5. However, We can also play bishop d5 here. Now we totally blocked all his pieces, protected on c4. He has no ideas. He plays bishop c1, then just king h1. Sorry, king h8, bishop d2. Rook goes back, he takes, and it only helps us because this is how we trade his last defensive piece. And of course, it takes a few tempers for us, but we can activate our rook and just simply use the advantage of extra rook. Bishop g3. Otherwise, we play rook g2. Queen g6, threaten the bishop. Queen f2, h5, h4. Because if not, then we are going to play this move, and then queen g2, queen takes g2, rook takes g2, king h1, and then we can apply a discovery attack with our rook. For example, rook goes to a2 and capture this and this. h4, queen g4, queen a3, but in such a case we no, first we play this move. However, it wasn't obligatory. We could play queen d1 instead. e6 was played in the game, but rook g6 just. It was a bad idea to play this move, but actually here white can do anything because this move is coming. Finally, queen d1. And bishop e4 was played in the game. However, what if queen e1 in this position? How would you play? So what's the best way for black how to checkmate or maybe gain the material here? Queen g4 back, but queen f2. The queen was already on g4, and from g4 we moved it to d1. So we force the enemy queen to go to e1. How can we use his queen's position now? Okay, no problem, Anthony. Rook g3. Wait, our queen is hanging. I don't think we can allow to move rook g3. He just takes our queen. Okay, it's queen f3 move. Because we are threatening with two checkmates. And he should keep his queen on the first or second rank to cover them. But this is how he could cover only one of them. If he wants to cover both squares, then this move should be played. But in such a case, just rook g3, and if queen takes, queen h1 is a checkmate. So bishop e4 was played, but then just queen a1. He takes knight d5. But who cares? Just queen c3 in this position, and if he takes on d5, he is checkmated. Maybe queen g1 or queen h3 as well. Okay, fine. So what you can learn from this game, first you see that we blocked the rook with his bishop, and then we didn't allow this bishop to escape. And even it could make much sense to sacrifice a piece. Let me show you. Where was it? Okay, here We could even sacrifice a piece in case if we are sure that one of the enemy pieces can't be released from a1, and also the bishop on b1 is a bad piece. And like it was in the previous game, here we trapped his pieces on the queen side and finally decided to switch to the king side and start the attack there. And as what you can see here, we opened the G file, traded the material, and successfully used the advantage of extra rook on that side. Okay, fine. Let's now analyze the third game fragment. So wait a second, let me open it. And this is the game played by Lilienthal Andor and Botvinnik Mikhail. So here Botvinnik is playing with black pieces. And actually he lost in this game. So let's just flip the board. So what do you think black should do in this position? Now our pawn is attacking this knight on c6. What do you think is the best move for black in this position? Knight d4. Okay, of course not knight d4 because I can show you knight d4, queen d3. What? No squares to move. This move, then e3, and that's all. Okay, here the best option that black has. Okay, I'm waiting for. Maybe Ahelan will suggest something else instead of knight d4. No? Okay, fine. The best move is knight b8 with the idea to get this knight back to the game by playing knight d7, knight f6. Of course, it takes many tempers, but this is the best what black could do. However, white is better. I believe white is better here. Okay, just let's go back to make it clear. So this move, bishop f6, and then after e3, what do you suggest? Knight to e2? No, queen takes. Knight to e6? No, pawn takes. The knight is trapped here. Okay, fine. In the game, it was played knight b4. That move makes sense, but actually black didn't evaluate the consequences of this move. Queen d2 to attack the knight and also to protect the pawn. Oh, queen c4 is another good move in this position, but queen d2 is fine. a5, a3, knight goes to a6, and how would you continue in this position? And actually, what can he do with this knight? Okay, I'm waiting. Go to f4, then d5. What do you mean? Michael, I don't understand what you mean. Okay, here b4, because the knight wants to get to c5, and by playing b4, we stop this activity. Hmm. Okay, I can enable notation here. So this move, a takes on b4 doesn't really change anything. Bishop f6 was played in the game. Bishop b2, queen d7, bishop takes, rook takes, and here the knight is almost trapped. He can only do this, then d7, and then somewhere to e5 or f6. However, it takes many tempers. And can you please tell me if in this position it makes sense for white to capture on a5 right now? Is it good or not for white? And what happens after b takes a5? So what do you think? No, what happens after b takes a5? Mm. Actually, the idea of this move is to take on a5 with the queen and get extra pawn. But the problem is that instead of taking the pawn, they can play knight c5 with the idea to make a fork. But if you somehow play queen c3 or maybe rook b1, then rook a5, and uh, finally the knight gets to a better position. And also a3 is a weakness. And rook on a5 looks active. So that's why instead of taking knight d3 was played a4, rook c1, queen f7 attacking on d5, knight f4, bishop c8 to stop knight e6 coming, I think, rook c3, bishop d7. Oh, actually, there are not so many good moves for black in this position. That's why he tries to do anything. Rook fc1 and bishop b5 can be played. h6, h4. And what can you say about g5 in this position? Is it good or not? How can white react on this move? Yeah. So then knight e6, h takes g5, h takes g5, and knight e6. And if he takes, then we take on a g5. Moreover, in this position, he can't really capture the pawn with none of his pieces. Actually, the rook is hanging too. So after knight e6, he has to care about the g5 pawn, I think, but then we just take on c7. Or maybe play queen g5, actually, I don't know. We have so many good options. Okay, rook a7, h5 to stop his pawn's activity and also to get the g6 square for our knight. Rook e8 back. So you see, he is running out of moves. Rook e3, king h7. And then in this position, rook c to c3 was played. However, maybe white could do something else. But okay, rook c to c3, rook b8, queen d3, rook e8, and finally knight g6. What to do? Because our goal is to play a rook e7 move. And let's say bishop e8, we can do rook e7. Queen goes to g8, the only square for the queen. And then g4 with the idea to open the diagonal and apply a discovery check with our knight. Maybe bishop e4 first, and then discovery the check with our knight. For example, knight f8, knight e6, and then threaten the g7. Okay, anyway, white is winning here. What happened instead? Here, black decided to sacrifice the exchange. If queen g6, how do we play? Rook e7, yeah, e7, and what can he do? Bishop c8, for example. If bishop c8, then what do you think? Or maybe queen d4 is enough here. Queen d4, then e4, or maybe e4 immediately, actually. Yeah, that makes sense to play e4 immediately, then take on f5. Okay, queen g6. Okay, in this position, we should also, sorry, rook e7, we should analyze this move, rook d8. But the rook has to stay there because the knight is hanging. So rook e6 doesn't really work. That's why maybe he took with the king. However, after this move, the fastest way to win is g4, king h7, we take, bishop takes, bishop e4. If he gives a check in this position, king f1, or at least this move, because after bishop e4, how would you play? What do you think we can do in this position? Rook g6, but rook g6 he takes on d3. And we can't take his bishop because then he takes our rook. Oh, actually, queen d4, yes, Dadal is correct. Queen d4 gains the bishop because the queen is hanging. Queen has to move, otherwise we checkmate on g7 or take his queen. So, for example, he moves the queen, we take on e4 with the check, and then successfully realize our extra exchange. Okay, so then finally black resigned. Let's just quickly analyze the main idea of this game. So what did we do? Here we trapped the knight. It's stuck there. And the rook has to stay on e8 because we have our queen on d3 attacking on a6. So the best thing that black could do was to play 97, 98, 97 earlier, and that could really help. But of course, um, uh, it requires a few tempers, and white using these tempers can improve the position and get a better position. What is more important is that if now he moves the knight, he loses the pawn on c7, and then his pawn structure totally ruins, and both pawns become weaknesses. And of course, the position is winning. That's why he has to stay like this and do such bad moves like rook a8, rook a7. And this is how we win. Okay, fine. Now I prepared two exercises for you, and let's complete them together. So this is the first position where it's white to move, and I want you to find the best move for white. What do you think? So the position is really complicated, and try to think about what white can do to be able to lock one of the enemy pieces out. Actually, we are taking the knight on g5 with our f pawn, but what do you think? Does it make sense to take immediately, or we should do something else? No, you mean it doesn't make sense? Because of what? Michael, what do you mean before? b5? So b5 you mean? Okay. But b5, a6 can be played. And if you play a4, then he captures on b5. So, for example, b5, a6, a4, he takes, you take with the pawn, and at least he can play with his rook through the a file. The bishop is trapped. That's right. That makes sense, however. White is better. I think so. Yeah, rook a1 and so on. But no, that's not the best move. Okay, if there are no suggestions, then I can say that a4 is the best move. Why? Because now it doesn't really matter what move he's gonna do. Let's say a6. If he does a6, let's just keep it as it is. Because if he pushes b5 and we assume the pawn is not hanging, we can play a5 and it totally block these two pieces. If he does a5 later, no, let's make some simple move. Let's say king g2. Okay, not king g2, but let's do a normal move, queen c2, for example. He does a5, then b5, and he is blocked. So by playing a4, we keep our pawn structure flexible, and we are ready for his a6, b5 maneuver or a5 maneuver. We will close the position in such a case. So we are already prepared, but we don't need to do anything else. Just to play on the king side. Okay, fine. The next one. In this position, it's black to move. Try to find the best move that can help you to gain the material. So here you may notice that the bishop is almost trapped on b2. How can it help you? Or what can you suggest? Actually, Michael, I think you met this position before. Yeah, as black, it's black to move, and our task is to gain the material, at least one pawn. Okay, guys, any suggestions? No, it's not so difficult. It's just calculation. Okay, I'll give you 1 more minute, and if not, then I'm going to show the solution. Okay, Michael is typing. What do you suggest? Okay, anyway, let me show the solution. Bishop d3. Now he has three options: to take with the pawn, to take with the queen, and to capture on e8. Let's say queen takes. If so, then rook e2, queen takes on e2, and what our next move is. d3, exactly. We are taking two pieces simultaneously, and if he takes our queen, we take his rook, and now again two of his pieces are hanging. Okay, if rook takes on e8, then we do bishop f1. No, let's say, no, of course not king f1, because in such a case we take on e8 and have extra rook. That's why he should first take, king takes, and king f1 now. But then bishop d2 wins a pawn. So rook e8 doesn't work. C takes on d3. In such a case, we take here, queen takes, and then we play queen f5, and he has to protect all these three pawns with his queen, while it can protect only two. So we take on d5, or if he plays this move, then I think we can take and finally take on d2 and get a winning position. Of course, it would take some efforts from us to win this position, but it's much better for black and almost winning. So bishop d3, that was the key idea here, to make his queen protect all the pawns. Okay, fine. Thank you for your attention. Please suggest the topic for our new webinars. You can message me on tricksofchess@gmail.com. This is my mail. Also, if you are interested in private lessons, let me know. You can also message me, and if you have some other suggestions, then okay. Okay, thank you for coming, and I'm going to upload this video to my YouTube channel. Okay, let me. No, okay. I will upload it to chess.com, and you'll find the link to my YouTube channel there. Okay, thank you for your attention. I hope you can come for our next webinar next Sunday. Thank you.